Hello, dear authors and invited guests. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the fifth International Conference on Information and Communication Technologies for Intelligent System Review on behalf of ICTIS 2021 and Global Knowledge Research. We are thankful to everyone to present on this platform to make this conference more broad. During these unpredictable circumstances of COVID-19, we wish everyone and families are protected and we will together pass this. I hope you will enjoy the last day of the knowledgeful and the interactive session. Now, I would like to introduce our session chair, Annie Rajan. She is an associate professor in the Department of Information Technology at the Prithvi College of Arts and Science, Panji, Goa. She has more than 23 years of teaching experience in the field of IT. She has presented several research projects and research papers. Welcome, Madam, to the technical session, CPP of ICTIS.
Thank you, Disha.
Now, we will start with our presented. One special note for our presenters. All the presenters would be given 8 minutes for their presentation. At the 7th minute, I will raise a gentle reminder. And while the presentation is going on, other participants kindly be muted. So, our first presenter of the session, Krishna Nandan, are you there?
Hello, yes, I am there. Are you able to hear me well? Okay. I will share my screen now. Are you able to see my screen? Okay, shall I start? Hello, are you able to hear me? Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can start.
Okay, sure. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Krishna Nandan and I'll be presenting the paper, which is basically a case study, Sustainable Technologies for Improved Income Generation, a case study for women villagers in Himachal Pradesh. And this is primarily a student-driven project where we have students from undergraduate BTech program of our university. And you can see these are the students who participated in the program, and they are from various departments, which brings in the multidisciplinary nature to this project. We have Jaishi Nair, who had worked in the technical aspect of this project, and Ellen Frey and me, who have worked with the students on the social science side of the project. So we are talking here about the income opportunities that we have for our village people here. So in the rural India, as we all know, 70% of India is basically rural population. And if you look at the rural population, 61% of the rural population were unemployed as of 2019. That is now, when you look at the genders, we can see that it is mainly women who have been unemployed. And if you can see that employment of women have reduced from 37% to 28% in a 10-year span between 2005 and 2016. And also, if you compare between the genders, we see an unemployment rate of 13.9% for women when compared to 5.8% compared to men. So looking at these problems, we know that, with irregular income opportunities, it is always better that both the members of the household have income to support their family. So in this line, we worked through this Living Labs program that is part of our university. It is a multidisciplinary experiential learning program at our university, where students are given the opportunity to put theory into practice. So all the concepts that they learn in classroom, they are given the opportunity to implement it in the rural villages. And this was carried out as part of the Living Labs and the UNESCO Chair for Experiential Learning for Sustainable Nation Development. I will go through the methodology in the forthcoming slide. Now, looking at the study area, so the area that we worked in is Indapur village, which is situated in the Kangra district in Himachal Pradesh. And this is one of the 101 villages that is adopted by the Amrita Serve program as part of the UN recognized NGO Matamritan. And going into this village, now this village is 9 wards, and our focus area was limited to 6, 7, and 8. And the area, now this our focus area was 191,000 with a population of 1,263. Main one ethnographic approach, where the students as well as faculties lived with the community for a period from 7 to 10 days. They lived with the community to understand their socioeconomic practices, their cultural practices, and the various household codes that they follow every day as a routine. Apart from that, we have human-centered design. Now, the reason why we chose human-centered design is because that the is because it is human-centered design because uh, the reason is we are doing this for the community, and it is very much important that the community also participates in this process in order to give them what they actually need. Now here, human-centered design was actually used to actually understand the challenges that they're facing. So we work in the areas of agriculture, income generation, water, education, health, skill development, waste management, agriculture, etc. So to exactly understand what challenges they're facing, we use this concept. We use the participant observation where we were observing the people in the community. We use a framework called AEIOU framework where we look at the activities, the environment in which they are working, the interactions that they have with the community and each other and the objects as well as the users. We try to understand them through observations, and then to go much more deeper into understanding their challenges and their daily routine of how they're going about with their challenges. We conducted interviews, and interviews here were mainly semi-structured interviews because this was more of an how their perceptions, thoughts, and also from the interviews that were conducted with the various people there. We created personas and scenarios, and personas were mainly done to deeply understand the users, to understand their demography, and to understand their pain points and how they went about with their daily lives. And scenarios highlighted one particular pain point, which was very much important for them, and is something that is motivating them to look for change. Now, since we had both qualitative and quantitative data, we used mixed method analysis to analyze the data that we got from field. Now, the results we can see that from participant observation, it was mainly men who were working. And if you can see the graph here, the daily wage labor was prominent. No other sources of information and no other sources of income was predominant in that village. People used to go to the nearby districts or the nearby cities to look for jobs, and only if the jobs are there, they get it, or else they come back empty-handed. And so it is very difficult to sustain their households on a very uniform manner. Women are only engaged in households, and though they have time for themselves and they are looking forward to work, they do not get opportunities in the market because mainly the employers look for men and not women because they want people who can do hard labor. So uh, they do not want women to be working as employees under them. And then there were interviews conducted, and this interviews from the interviews we understood the sporadic nature of the jobs they were engaged in, and they were the wage labor opportunities are uncertain. It is only when the work is there they are called. And many situations, many a times where the families in Indapur had to face poverty situations. And as I mentioned, jobs are mainly male dominated, and just since it was sporadic, it was really affecting the income. And though the women, now we had self-help groups there where women form among themselves and try to do some skill development activities like knitting, tailoring, and everything. But then that is not very prominent because again the demand for the goods was again very sporadic. But though they mentioned that they can spend time, but they just didn't have the opportunity. Moreover, the personas that we conducted, we mainly since we understood women are the ones unemployed, we spoke to the middle-aged women because they were the ones who were more interested to work and looking for opportunities, and they were desperate to increase the household income. ready to spend leisure time for doing work that will generate income. And they mentioned the lack of opportunities, and they're ready to get trained in skills. And moreover, the scenarios families could not afford, and there were many situations where families could not afford the fees for the children and couldn't avail certain groceries for their requirement. So this is one of the primary reasons that motivated us to provide some solutions so that even the women get an opportunity to work and they have a sustained employment opportunity and they can support their family. Now, thinking in these regards, our students had now another thing that they observed was, which I'd missed, and actually one of the observations is that they observed that drumstick trees, that is moringa trees, were naturally growing in the village. That entire environment and the soil was conducive for growth of such drumstick trees. And it was considered as a weed because the people didn't know how to use it, and they were usually using the leaves as cattle feed. But they were not really they never really understood the benefits of using moringa trees and the leaves, and also what all products can come out of it. They are not at all aware. So it was just like a weed that is growing in that village. Now, what students understood is that with the natural resource that is abundantly available to them, just if they understood how to utilize this and utilize it, and also if we can provide some sort of technology that we can help to extract the market demanded products out of it. So these trees are very much grown in that area, and it grows abundantly in that village. And from studies, the students understood that it can be used for medicinal properties, antimicrobial effects, and antioxidant properties. Since moringa oilseed is also used commercially, and it is one of the most important products used in the market. So we thought, so the students thought from the oilseed would be
Krishna, you have to conclude your presentation.
would be the most feasible option. Yes, friendly, cost effective, and higher yield when compared to all other moringa oil extraction process. The aid uses water for extraction, and it is completely environmentally efficient. And also the extraction stage where it is mainly agitated and grinded, and then through centrifugation the oil is extracted. And the conclusion is that, first of all, now since this was just first level project, the students are still working on this aqueous enzymatic oil extraction, and they're still working on coming up with the parameters for designing the entire system. And the work is still in progress. Though students are working from home, there is a bit of delay. So investigation unraveled the changes and repercussions. So we understood the exact challenge of communities facing, and human-centered design process helped us to involve the community in this entire design process. And these were some of the things which the community themselves proposed, and it was not something that just the students thought that it is the best option for the community. They highlighted the negative experiences, and they also understood the impacts that that drumstick trees can bring for the community. Now, future scope of work would be to implement co-design. Now, the students will take this solution, I mean, the concept of the solution to the community, and there will be a co-design, collaborative design process where the community as well as the students will together build the solution, and there will be a prototype done in the village so that the community will get exactly what they want, understand the working of it, so that the entire technology transfer will be based on how much the community can understand and how much they can take forward. So we have to make the technology that simple for them to operate. The model design will then be fabricated and tested on campus and then be deployed in the village. So thank you, and I'm ready for questions.
Yes, ma'am, you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Krishnan. It was a nice case study what you have done. But you have said that a woman can spare about 2.5 hours daily. So do you
Yes.
think this type of projects, this much time by woman is just sufficient, or and their climatic conditions, because they have extreme climates of cold and all?
Yes, ma'am, that's a good question. Yes, ma'am. So basically, once the women are trained, 2.5 hours is enough. Only the training would take time. So once you're trained, they know how to use the entire system. 2.5 hours would be enough. And definitely, if they're yielding, if they can see the results coming in, they would definitely put in more time as well. And climatic conditions, yes, actually they are quite used to it. And since this is one sort of tree that grows in cold areas, they are actually ready to take it up because they're quite used to the conditions and it's fine with them. So this is something that they themselves propose based on their convenience. And this is what they had mentioned.
Okay, thank you, Krishnan. We look forward to such the actual implementation and the result of it. And Amrita University would really think of such good projects. Thank you.
So, thank you very much. Thank you.
Now we move ahead. Our next presenter, Simran Garg. You can start your presentation.
Yeah, good afternoon to all. So our topic is, thank you, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. So our topic is overview of augmented reality and its trend in agriculture industry. So augmented reality is intelligently the real world involvement in which computer generated perceptual data regularly through different tactical modalities such as visuals, sound related haptics, and olfactory improves the objects that happen within the world. AI is in agribusiness assisting rancher with mechanizing their cultivating as well as movements to exact development for higher harvest yields and better quality, which while utilizing fewer assets. So, a paper features importance of AR in ongoing farming industries, alongside its enormous development history, working and device it requires. Likewise, ongoing pattern of cultivating innovations are examined individually. Augmented reality will bring modernization to agriculture industry. So first of all, we'll discuss what is AR in brief. Augmented reality is a combination of two words, augmented, which means add, and reality, which means condition of having presence. So currently, augmented reality application and technologies have evolved a lot in agriculture industries. It has been yet to be implemented properly due to lack of awareness as well as knowledge. So if we go through the history of AR, we have in 1968, Ivan Edward Sutherland created the first head-mounted device in 1968 to step into virtual reality. Then 1970, Myron Kruger established an artificial reality laboratory in Video Place. In 1980, Steve Mann created wearable computers in 1980. In 1999, US Naval Research Laboratory connects to battlefield AR systems. In 2016, in July 2016, Niantic released the game Pokemon Go, which turned out to be the most popular smartphone application. So in our present situation, the agricultural industry, all cutting edge farmers are going to computer-based intelligence advanced to help yield better harvest, supervise pests, screen soil, and developing condition for maximizing production. So the devices used in augmented realities are mobile phones. So mobile phones, then smart glasses, then head-mounted displays, and web-based AR. Augmented reality work on these in these using these technologies such as cameras and sensors. The camera inside the contraptions check the ecological components and which with this information, a comfort find real things and makes 3D models. Handling AR devices demonstration is like miniature PCs, things that present day cells phones currently do. Additionally, they need a PC chip, a GPU, a streak memory, hammer, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and GPS. Projection. It is a cut back projector on AR headset that takes information from sensors, adventures, and automated data. Then last is reflection. Reflection of few AR tools which mirrors to help basic eyes by watching imaginary images. A couple, couple having compliance connection of most negligible board mirrors and couple have two fold-sided mirrors to mirror light, weight to a camera and to a client eyes. Present AR trends in agricultural fields are augmented reality in horticulture for climate or daily weather updates. Then it is expanded reality in horticulture for mimicked preparing. Then augmented reality agricultural games, augmented reality for field assessment, and the last is augmented reality wearable modern glasses. Further, Simran will take over.
So as we were discussing about the present AR trends in agriculture fields, augmented reality for field assessment. Farmers perform manual richness control on each plot of land, making cultivation a complex and tedious interaction. Augmented reality in horticulture assumes a transformative part in the field, control and cycle location of pests or creepy crawlies. Cultivating involves each exact estimations, planning, and a logical way to deal with field and cultivation process. With a few investigating augmented reality in agribusiness, potential applications flourish. Expanded reality in horticulture for mimic preparing. The utilization of augmented reality is unmistakably in assembling, medical care, and land, yet its utilization in farming still can't seem to be investigated. It can be used for precise picking of crops in particular area and season. It is an intelligent and more secure type of approach for preparing farmers, as farming tasks soon might be achievable with a tablet or cell phone. Presently, ranchers can catch and share data about apparatus, yields, and animals in the most ideal way. Augmented reality in horticulture for climatic or daily weather updates. Augmented reality for this situation goes about as help for ranchers for acquiring ongoing weather experiences. Constant, exact, and area explicit climate refreshes help with relieving the dangers identified with cultivating. The powered idea of climate brings about wastage of ingenuity, time, and assets of ranchers. This can doubtless minimize crop losses and guarantee health harvests. Augmented reality in horticulture for climatic or daily weather updates. Currently, these modest glasses are a sort of wearable advancements that coordinates virtual info with info inside the viewpoint of the field to the ranchers. The reforms augmented reality glasses permits farmers to put on these glasses and examine their fields. These modest frames have a splendid display. The wheel got from AR, which is largely supported to farmers, incorporate flow, soil sogginess content, surface porosity, and soil water ingestion limit. Augmented reality in farming games.
Interrupt, Simran. You have last 1 minute for your presentation.
Yes.
You have last 1 minute for your presentation, please.
Okay, Simran, wind up quickly.
Okay, then.
The augmented reality in farming games. For declination, ranchers can, with these redirections, build their craziest types of cultivation and have a great time. Future scope of augmented reality in agriculture industry. Augmented reality has a great potential to turn farming 360 degrees. It will revolutionize farming equipments and farming techniques for our farmers. Our farmers will have more holistic and precise approach to cultivate the best harvest every time. Just imagine if it gets further explored as well as implemented properly, it will become a few step work for our farmers. Thus, agriculture industry depends upon implementation as well as research on these technologies. And conclusion is augmented reality has monstrous future potential in agriculture industry as well as in other industries. Growing and augmented reality is growing and evolving with time. Also, it plays a vital function in agriculture industry. Farming will become two-step job, thus boosting agriculture business. Also, the gadgets of augmented reality will get cheaper and better. Augmented reality currently used for determining soil properties, climatic change, mimic picking, and farming games. Thank you. Any questions from anyone?
Yeah. Thank you, Priya. You have given a good presentation on the augmented reality with agriculture. But did you see any experiment conducted on this in the field? Or have you visited anywhere, or have you seen any paper at least published on this augmented reality actual application?
In agriculture field.
Because your topic is in agriculture, no?
I reply, Simran. Okay, ma'am, this is Dr. Archana Singh. I am also the co-author. So, ma'am, we have actually seen the papers and we are in the scope of collecting data. And once we got the relevant and appropriate data, we are going to apply AR algorithms.
Have at present not collected some substantial information.
No, ma'am. It is just a study. Like we have done the study and we had seen the application, how it can be explored. And because augmented reality, virtual reality is not that much in, because everyone is talking about AI, but augmented virtual reality to incorporate both the technologies together, I think that will become, and that will bring boost to the agricultural industry.
Okay, thank you, Priya. Thank you, Archana.
Thank you.
For the wonderful presentation, and I hope you all can do some actual groundwork and do some implementations. Thank you.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so very much, ma'am.
Next we have E.R. Aruna. Are you there? Might be she not available. Next one, T. Jaya Lakshmi.
Yes, ma'am. Instead of her, I'm Rohit Chukula. I'm gonna present this one.
Okay, you can present. You can start your present.
Just one minute, ma'am. Just one sec. Could you see my screen, ma'am?
Yes, yes. Full screen and continue.
Yes, ma'am. So our paper is ontology-based food recommendation. So first, let's see its motivation. Eating right food is a crucial aspect of healthy living. So this has balanced diets which needs to be in our body to fight the diseases. So many lifestyle related diseases such as the thyroids as well as diabetes, this can be able to avoid by having a better amount of eating as well as better nutrition. So having diet related is an essential for all of the human beings and all. So with this, the ontology has been developed as well as discussed in this one. So the main aim is to create an ontology to help the food in getting right recommendation about the food based on the health recommendations if they had any health of complications. So its introduction is in internet has lots of information is available on this food science. So currently this information retrieval systems which is used as a text mining. So these techniques retrieve irrelevant information if user is not query is not clear or not that much into existence. So this may lead into adverse effects of the user's food requirements. The solution is ontology. So, this ontology is an basically it is an semantic web precedence. So it's an interesting venue. So it is an ontology and data model to describe different amount of concepts in one particular domain and relations if they had any between them. So overview can be like ontology is presented on users' needs if they had any diseases like those. So some key concepts can be food comprising of food types, flavors, textures, different cores, meals, which have been considered in this. So in plus to this, information regarding some recipes, ingredients, which they had have been incorporated in here. So so to finally this the details of physical contributions such as weights as well as ages if they had any sort of diseases, and those all is allowed to be able to maintain here. So this in this work, it is used by people which uses culinary interest, as well as restaurants or many great good chefs and all, with all about of nutrition and all. So users can be personal personalized nutrition recommendation for a particular amount of users, to recommend best match substitutions for ingredients where appropriate in order to meet the taste preferences which need related needs here. So to suggest this, some of the best recipes, such as in lunch or dinner or breakfast, these are meal types, or course types like this entry and all. So to suggest for a user based on taste and interest, for instance, if anyone wants to request a high amount of glycemic index ingredients, the search term will avoid offering to this index GI, and there's recommendations to suggest appropriate recipes to have users having diseases like diabetes or the less thyroids and all. So brief overview can be the main elements of ontology are classes, individuals, and properties, which can also called as relationships. Class is a collection of objects, individuals, instances in ontology, relationships in which classes relate to each other. Properties or relationships. These consist of two types: data types, as which assign value to only that particular property, and between two objects. And so modeling is, let's say here we have a user. He has some disease and all. He likes or he's allergic. He dislikes or he is allergic to some ingredients. It is substitute to that some other ingredients. Or he has chemical food. It is a food. It has an ingredient. Recipe is recommended for meal. Is recommended for course to course. And it has some nutrition. So it is a mineral, it is a fat, it is a protein, it is a vitamin, and so on. So this, which I described earlier, this is an class hierarchy. So all thing, these all had things which has been developed in Protege. It is an open software. So object properties. This is pair of objects which considered to be, as shown here, is substitute of. So in case of he doesn't like one ingredient, or he doesn't like particular things, so you can take substitute. It has ingredients which connects recipe to ingredients. Has disease. It is disease instant receiving information particular using have hand diseases, if he has some disease, he had some thyroid, or he has some these all like of diseases. Has nutrient. If some ingredient has some nutrient, so that can be said here. Has flavor, as similar to dislikes. If he doesn't like particular ingredient or particular dish, like he can just dislike that. Is allergic to. It is particular ingredient he allergic, or he doesn't like, so on. Is recommended for course, means he recommended for meal or dinner, like that. Is recommended for meal. Is recommended it a particular recipe which is recommended for meal, or like that. So data properties. Data properties connect objects with literals. So basically, it's some of the data properties has taken has it has a BMI. It has like a body mass index, or low activity level, indicates true if it has a low physical or false. Low physical activity or false. Has is it indicates is has weight indicates weight of that particular user. Uh, has cooking type property of a recipe, like it also indicates the time to cook that recipe and all. The gluten property indicates whether ingredient a particular one contains gluten or not. Has glycemic index. So it is an ingredient integer which contains how they feel blood sugars after that particular meals. So in this, I have created, we have created 75 instances of ingredients, 6 of courses, 5 meals, 22 recipe, 2 diseases, 5 vitamins, and so on and so forth. Basically, 2 time measurements and 30 uses which has been created here. So this is selected instructors. Course is these all courses. Recipes are almond biscuits, which has object property, has ingredients, is recommended for course, which is dessert, recommended for meal, snack. Data properties means it serves, at how much time it is to cook, how much the temperature it required. And I took a user, it took some instance, he had disease, he dislikes it, and so on. And in data property column, what his age, he has weight, what is BMI, and so on. In disease, he had what sort of diseases that does he have, ingredients, so what type of instances like almond, badam, and so on. Object properties, which it has nutrient, it's substitute, it has texture. And data properties means has gluten, has a glycemic index, and so on. Recommendation, useful of, it has in ontology, which I had tried using a SparkQuell, which is an open software. So with this open software, I had created this food ontology. So which is used to almond as an ingredient means, I had prepared and this query, simple SparkQuell query. So so it is almost like a SQL one. So it requires where food recipe has ingredient is almond, so it gives which ingredient has almond, as well as contains banana do not match walnuts means where recipe has ingredient banana, filter does not exist which has walnut. This is which does not contain gluten. So recipe food has gluten, which is false, which is it's an integer. So chicken recipes which low sugar content. So
Sorry to interrupt, but you have to conclude. You have time limit.
so this is the about low sugar content one. I have contained the less than 20 minutes of for the cooking. This is the food contains vitamin D. So other food ontologies in this was like these all the authors which had been I took, and those all these contributions. To conclude this, so I had developed an ontology of 29 classes, 10 object properties, and 9 data properties with more than 100 individuals, which with few have been used with SparkQuell queries. So the food ontology means could guide users and useful recommendation. In future, we would like to enhance the just semantic techniques. These are the references which have been used. Thank you. If you have any questions, I am free to answer you.
Any of the participants there has a question? Because food is a favorite topic for everyone. And when we can see certain recipes. But I have one thing, one question to you all is,
Yes, ma'am.
this database, what you collect.
Yes, ma'am.
So do you have any repository for such database? Or is that you have to create your own?
Actually, this is just a basic one, ma'am. So for this one, we had only created our own database. So we are planning to keep.
Is there any repository?
As of now, no, ma'am. So we are planning to give that repository now.
I think you have a big challenge of creating such a repository, which may be really useful to many industries.
Yes, 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 ma'am.
Which industries do you identify for this?
Food. As of now, we just started this, ma'am. So we haven't gone to the deep. So
I think you'll have plenty of industry, especially all
yes, yes,
the
yes, ma'am.
nutritionists, dietitians, gyms,
Almost a lot of the
hospitals.
hospitals or dietitians, nutrition, they may acquire this. So
I think you should make a good repository and give it to the public. I mean, give it to other researchers also to use.
yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
We'll try. We are trying to that. So let's hope.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rohit, for your nice presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, our next presenter, Sunil. Are you there? Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Might you have a two presentation?
Yes, yes,
So now you start your presentation.
yes, sir. Yes, now?
Yes. Full screen and continue.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, today I will be presenting a study on approaches of cloud-based web developed app migration. I will like to thank the co-authors Raghunandan, Ranjit, Chetan, and Professor G. Hemant Kumar. Introduction. Today, you know that high performance have a computing power more than desktop computer and workstation to solve large problems. So, main key point in computing is process management. That is, the process is shifted from one node to another. So, in distributed computing, running process can be managed and distributed among available resources. Hence, resource utilization can be done efficiently. Like in multi-core machines, process migration depends on scheduling. So it's normally done since migration happens within systems. So these are more complex and big, which results in system failure. For this failure, checkpoint and restart techniques becomes a main feature in case. So these techniques are normally called as fault tolerance techniques and designed to manage such failures. So in this paper, we aim to implement process migration using CRIU and DMTC tool, that is checkpoint restaurants user space and distributed multi-threading checkpointing. So first we should look about migration policies. So process migration will be considerably increasing the amount of performance and reliability over network. It has 4W guidelines, that is what, when, where, and who. These policies are to guide and justify the process migration decision activities. So here it comes when once we look into the 4W guidelines is first what selecting the process migration activity becomes a key task. Then time to start a migration process is very important because it depends on time and event approach. Where the condition to choose a target node, that is host, many scenarios argues depending on the target system goals. Who, based on distributed scheduling policies which are in use and several scenarios are possible. So constraint migrations. In constraint migration, a running process will have many constraints for migrating it from one node to another node, so that you can see the figure for better clarity. Running process encounters many hurdles, execution and migration. So motivations. In motivations, we have dynamic loading, availability, system administration, faulty, etc. The key thing is to stateless and stateful applications. Today, the word talks about stateless application where we do not have local state to start small transaction to big transactions in the stored or remote distributed storage or centralized versions. Normally these transactions are not affected because it's too small. So however, to in stateful application, the application of definition can be said that you can, if you want to kill an application which is into execution, has not taken snapshot or saved the information, that will lose the computing time, or last you can't save that computing time. So hence begin the real work and non-graceful shown will be loss in computer timing. So another thing is data locality, mobility and fault recovery. So system implementation, this is the CRIU system implementation. Checkpoint Restaurant User Space is a software of Linux working framework that utilizes and it enables to freeze running applications and store it as an image file. One would then able to utilize these image files to re-establish and run the application from point that it was frozen at. It also uses the backup and restore any live user space process. The simple application or command is apt Catch search CRIU app get install CRIU. That's the platform using Unix operating system. So you can see the image. This is the command to start CRIU. Here you have three sides, that is reporter side, pusher side, and subscriber side. So your reporter module is divided into three parts. One is login module for clients and users, subscriber listing module to allow reporters to select the subscribers of interest, and upload the module to all the reporters to send parameter status to server along the sensor values with time and occurrence. So in reporter side, the register use will update the received alerts into the server database. Then the servers constantly hangs tight for demand either from the reporter or the supporter. So the subscriber acts as a monitor for reporter, continuously checking the database for the messages being updated by the reporter. So this is the output screen shown in the snapshot. Refresh should build the request number. The current request number is shown at the top, followed by the previous request made by the client, as you can see in the image. So this is the web server checkpoint. In this web server checkpoint, it keeps the process running, and another terminal uses ps command to find the process ID, that is PID of the web server. And the next step is to checkpoint the web server. For checkpoint the web server, we'll freeze it process state and dump this state information into a directory. That is, you'll execute CRI dump to process till the checkpoint process. This is how you dump killing the web server process. It is used to take tasks you're about, migrate and dump them into some place, asking CRIU to leave them stop state after the dump so that you will get unable to connect. So the next step is to go to directory where image files are stored and restore command to restore the process from the frozen state. You can view the all the files which is can be restored. Your process restart request from another node. Now you should go to destination node and restore the process from images onto it. Then the process will be restarted or restored, and the output is shown in the following snapshot. So previously the process stopped at number 5 in the previous slide as you shown, and after restoring it requests to the number 6. So if you want to migrate to another node, there is a two-step. First, you will copy the image file to the target node, then you will restore it to the target node. So this is the destination node which has all the data that is migrated. You can see all the images that has been migrated. After image files are stored in dump directory, they are supposed to be sent into destination node. This process can be restored from images files. To do that, SCP command is used. This SCP-R, that is IP address only. This command copies the complete directory which has image files to the destination node from user 1. After sending the image files from the source node, this directory needs to access so that using those image files, process can be restored to check whether all files are present. That is, you will use ls command is used for to check the file. So list of files, ls command is used to list of files in Unix. Conclusion is, here we have used CRIU open source package. We are able to restore the Linux application process. This process, these applications can be restarted and another server, thereby reducing the load on the source, and this can be done provided the systems are identical in their configurations. Hence, we are able to restart the process and thereby restoring its internal state from the checkpoint requested number. So in future, you can use the process migration for distributed approaches. References. So thank you. Can I present the paper or next one?
Do you have any question from this presentation?
Yeah, one question is your innovative approach, how it is better than the other approaches for cloud-based web applications?
That's what, madam. And distributed approaches here you can, for example, in e-commerce site, you can increase the efficiency and performance. It is used for
You,
e-commerce applications.
have you tried any of those?
No, not yet. I should do it.
Yeah, you should do it. Then actually you can give a substantial evidence, that how it is able to.
But we had not tried for that huge. For a simple e-commerce application, we had tried and we had got the good results. So for further that increasing the results, we need to work more for this application.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. You can start your another presentation.
Yes, madam. Yes, an innovative approach for remotely monitoring and controlling heavy motor vehicles. Introduction. In recent years, the increase in electrical mobility is an exponentially high. So it grows 1.5x times for GDP. In India, it is a fast growing economy among major economies. So this logistics sector always sees improvements in the improving transportation infrastructures. So this enabled us to adapt the automated system which makes life easier and faster. So in this paper, we propose an innovative approach that is RHMV, that is real-time monitoring for heavy truck efficiently and efficiently. So in automation, the key aspect is the cost. So we have taken special care to make it low-cost solution that best suits for many logistical companies. So the proposed RHMV system is a real-time tracking, is said to be very efficient and cost-effective. The scenarios used for tracking and monitoring is much likely little unit. It's like a hurdle that mounts to a steel strap, that will mount to a steel strap around the install on the top of the truck. So this tracking and monitoring of the truck begin with activation of user by connecting or by pairing the device. First, once the key starts with the truck, within 5 minutes, you will get the full complete of all your information, that is pressure or temperature throughout the vehicle or throughout the vehicle. This is the proposed architecture. Here you can see the three modules. One is report, one is pusher server, and one is subscriber. So what does these three activities do? One is reporter module. It's the user who has an Android phone with reporter application running on it. The driver, who is the user, will receive the alerts if any as soon as the fault is detected in the vehicle. Then the pusher server module is website running on the server that continuously waits for a request from the reporter. The moment the server receives the alerts from the reporter, it updates it to the database. Then the subscriber model is the central administrator who logs into the server and monitors the entire network of reporters. So this is the system architecture of RHMV, the real-time mobile multimedia push system structure adapted in three-layer model. One is principal layer, subsequent layer, and third layer. In principal layer, reporter side that gives the interface to versatile clients, and in pusher server layer which answers for the solicitation of the columnist and supporters. The third layer is the supporter side, which controls the information in the database just as a set of reporters privilege. And you can see the image of pushers, subscribers, and reporter side. This is the system architecture of RMHV, where the registered user will update the received alerts into the server database. Then server constantly hangs tight for demand, either from reporter or supporter. The subscriber acts as a monitor of the reporter, continuously checking the database for the messages being updated by the reporter. So once we complete the implementation path, we have three algorithms for reporter, subscriber, and pusher. In reporters, we have registered to the server by providing informations for users. Then we'll pair the Bluetooth device using preset passwords. On success request subscriber, if any of the sensors crosses the threshold value, that is the alerts to the particular parameter along with the sensor value. It will alert the particular parameter with the sensor value. Then the display the precaution steps to be taken. Then after that, uploaded to the server as soon as possible, alert message is received. By keeping the app running for further threshold crossed value, then at last the application will close. For algorithm for pusher, first we start the pusher server, then listen to the request from the reporter or subscriber for checking the authentication. After reporter waits for the sensor status and the time, the updated the database and intimate the subscriber. It queries with the database and sensor status and time and uploads to the subscriber. Algorithms for subscriber. It will start the subscriber application, accept username and the password, then request the pusher server. On success query of the database, it displays the sensor value and the time. Displays the remedies to be taken and one exit stop. So these are the results. You can see their initial screenshot of the reporter application installed in a smartphone where the user will be asked for the IP address of the system where the server is running on. Then configuration is done by the application as to connect to the Bluetooth device. Here device is the HC05, that is second one as shown in the left side of the screen. So here it is the alert system, that is SAB alert system has been shown. Slow down, shift to the lower case, pull over the check for hydraulic pipe. So this button is turned to red, which means the engine is now very critical and has to be dealt with immediately. So this is the base where parameters list are shown with IDs. So for example, in the main page for engine, smoke, air condition, here the parameters. If you enter to view the parameters details, you should enter the numbers. After using the entered ID, data will be displayed. In the left side, you can use the engine, suspension, steering. If you click on that, you will give the description. It will give you the description of the particular thing. So conclusion is that in this paper, we have described one current work with the scope of automating the process of tracking and monitoring the heavy trucks. Its cost-effective approach. There are existing systems that have similar features, but our system make use of existing equipment like our smartphone within cost-effective audio kit embedded within the required sensors. It is user-friendly system that is easily to adopt and use. References. Thank you. Any questions, ma'am?
Again, this is an innovative approach that you have said.
Yes.
For heavy vehicles.
Yes, madam.
The same thing, have you tried? I mean, have you actually implemented in something?
Yes,
or
madam.
just...
1 or 2 madam, and we have the future scope by implementing traction control system also. So when we implemented for the existing system, that RHME was they used to install for the truck with sensor above, but we are using here for tractile tires. That is a small piece of a box which is installed over there. With that sensor, we are able to achieve the good results.
It will find an acceptability in the community of heavy motor vehicles.
That we need to check, madam. That we need to check, and we need to go further for that.
Thank you. Best of luck for your innovations.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil, for your presentation.
Thank you.
So now we all done this our presentation. I sincerely thank our all authors for their excellent presentation in this session and all our participants for being a part of this international conference. I hope this session was informative. Like all the presenters would be getting their digital certificates through email within 2 working days. Further, all the papers will have already forwarded to the stream and the publication will be live within 5 to 6 weeks. So kindly cooperate with the team of ICTIU 21. Now I would like to thank our session chair, Annie Rajan, for chairing the session, madam. Thank you for your lovely
Thank you, Disha. Thank you to everyone.
And here,
thank you.
One of your appreciation, madam, from our team, digital people. certificate for women.
Thank you.
We have very few participants. So kindly open your camera for quick snapshot for virtual memory of ICCIS 2021. Smile, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Done.
Thank you.
Now we can close the session.